Hello out there, folks. So, you don't know much about the Hulk. Well, I'm here to change that. Welcome to the very first episode of the Gamma Files, the show where I'm going to be smashing through history, the lore, and the legacy of Marvel's Green Goliath. Today, with this inaugural episode, I will be starting at ground zero. I'll be talking briefly about the origins of the Hulk, explore the minds and creators behind his creation, and just go over some basic Hulk 101. So, whether you're a lifelong fan or just dipping your toes into the vat of gamma radiation, this episode is for you. So grab your purple pants, check your pulse, and let's get started. And today, joining me is Blue
As
to
I
talk about the Incredible Hulk.
So I hate to be pedantic in the first 10 minutes, but you can't dip your toe into radiation.
Yeah,
it's
sure
not
you can.
it's not a solid or a liquid. You wouldn't say that you like dipped your toe into a vat of chlorine gas. That's not how radiation
I
works.
don't know, you might.
It's an immutable substance. You can't touch it.
All right, let's not get too literal.
I'm just saying, if you're gonna, I mean, there can be radioactive like substances, but you can't actually touch radioactiveness as a concept.
Lord Almighty.
Gamma radiation isn't it's not a tangible resource. You'd think for someone that's going to be talking about the Hulk, you'd be ready for these sort of discussions.
You doofus. All right, today Blue and I will be talking some Hulk 101. First off, why talk about the Hulk? So the Hulk, he is not just a green rage monster. He is a mirror of society, one that reflects fear, frustrations, anger, and other emotions that we carry deep inside us. So like, while other superheroes represent something that we all kind of aspire to be, Hulk represents conflict with being a quote unquote hero.
One thing I could say about the Hulk, as many of you might know, I was very much an English kid. When I was in college, I was an English major. Part of classic mythology, like Greek and Norse, that kind of can be transmuted into this discussion, is that the common demigod myth, Odysseus, Thor, the myths represented the values of the time, and that can be replicated in superheroes. Everyone, wants to be Superman or Batman. The Hulk is kind of a perversion of this concept where nobody wants to be the Hulk. He is a hero that doesn't reflect values. It reflects the flaws within the world.
Right. So he represents conflict. He is like the scream inside ourselves that nobody hears. He is a representation of strength without control. With Bruce Banner and the Hulk, we are reminded that anger can both be power and poison.
True.
But Hulk is more than just Hulk smash. He is a way for us to explore psychology, trauma, isolation, self-control, and really the overall nature of one's inner power.
Yeah.
The thing about the Hulk is he is a character in comics that is heavily symbolic in an era where mental health is more relevant than ever.
Yep.
He reminds us that we can be our own worst enemy. And all of that wrapped up in a green giant that just wants to be left alone, like many of us often want to be.
I don't.
He does not represent, however, somebody looking at their phone while they're doing a podcast.
Sorry, I got a really good match on Marvel Rivals, and I wanted to grab the screenshot to show off.
Jeez.
Hold on, I gotta put my pint ice cream away. I'm listening. Yeah, no, Hulk is on the topic. Something that you definitely know because Hulk is one of your favorite characters, right? You
Yeah.
told me that at some point.
Yeah.
One thing that you probably know, but many people might not, is that Hulk and Bruce Banner, it isn't so much of a Jekyll and Hyde situation where they are the same person, and when it goes back and forth, they're actually a system of alters. They have dissociative identity disorder.
I'm about to get to that.
Go ahead.
Yep. Okay. So, first of all, before we get into that, creation. The Hulk was created by writer Stan Lee and artist Jack Kirby. He first appeared in, oh man, I meant to have this freaking thing pulled up. Hang on. I forgot to upload this. Okay. He first appeared in, here we go, The Incredible Hulk, #1. Cover date was May 1962. So he's been around a while. Stan Lee cites that his main influences for creating the character were, as you mentioned, actually Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde by Robert Louis Stevenson, but also Frankenstein by Mary Shelley.
That's true.
In regards to Frankenstein, Lee had said way back when he always had a soft spot for the monster and never thought of him as the bad guy.
Yeah.
But
he's really not. I mean,
not.
If you want to get into that, that's a whole other discussion.
Yeah, that's a whole other discussion.
Stan Lee knows what he's talking about.
Another influence that Stan Lee mentioned was the Golem of Jewish mythology. So if you're interested in that, look it up.
That's fascinating. I never caught that.
Now, on to Dr. Bruce Banner. Well, he wasn't always a doctor. He was a kind of nerdy kid with a very troubled childhood. His childhood and his experiences with his abusive father basically led him to develop DID, dissociative identity disorder. And he began to repress his negative emotions. And those of you watching, listening, that are not Hulk novices, as you know, as a young man, he was recruited by the Army to develop nuclear weapons because he was super smart. And during the testing of a gamma bomb that he developed, Banner noticed that a teenager, Rick Jones, was on the testing field, and he couldn't stop the test, so he ran out there to save him. And while he did save Mr. Jones, he was exposed to the gamma blast. And this, in a nutshell, is the origin of the Hulk. This gamma blast basically, what would be the best way to explain it? It
cracked the egg of the system.
Right.
It didn't necessarily make the Hulk exist, but it set him free. It gave the Hulk a tangible way to appear.
Right. You're right. The Hulk already existed. He was just not necessarily hiding, but he was hidden. He was repressed.
Yeah.
And we're actually going to dive deeper into his origins later, not on this episode, but as we begin to talk about like specific issues and different story arcs as the podcast progresses. Next, we're going to talk a little bit about series history, starting off with some, I guess, iconic writers of the series. Other than Stan Lee, who of course created the character, some of the more notable ones are Len Wein, who most people recognize him in regards to the Hulk as 181, where he introduced Wolverine.
Oh, fascinating.
And so Len ran on the Incredible Hulk series from 1974 to 1978. There were some other ones not so notable. They were fine, just not iconic, I guess. But in 1985, a man named John Byrne took over for a year. And his biggest claim to fame, at least in my opinion,
Joe Fixit.
Did he do Joe Fixit?
I have no clue. I'm guessing.
See, now I've got to look that up because I can't remember who actually created Joe Fixit.
I did.
No. See, now I've got to get off the. Okay. Well, this is telling me that he was created in. Man, this is not helpful at all. I don't know. When did Bruce Banner become Joe Fixit? All right, let's do this instead. First appearance of Joe Fixit, because the year will give me a good idea of who it was. Oh, well, that would have been Stan Lee.
Oh.
Okay. No, John Byrne, his biggest claim to fame, like I said, in my opinion, is that he wrote the story arc that included the wedding of Bruce and Betty.
Oh, yeah.
Big story arc there. But after John Byrne left, began the run of a man by the name of Peter David. Rest in peace. He wrote The Incredible Hulk from 1987 to 1998. So he had a very large run.
You said 87 to 98?
87 to 98, that is correct.
God damn. That's like Dan Slott level long.
It is. So you can call it nostalgia on my part a little bit, because he is who was writing The Incredible Hulk when I got into the comic book.
I saw that coming.
But he's also an incredible writer.
To get 12 years, you kind of have to not be.
Yeah.
Shit.
Yeah. I mean, you've got, it's like he is my favorite Hulk writer in the same way that Dan Slott is my favorite.
He's your favorite
Spidey.
Yeah.
Yeah. So after Peter David left, there's a lot of different writers. As far as like modern day writers of the Hulk, some of the biggest names are like Al Ewing,
I was going to say Al Ewing.
Jason Aaron, Donnie Cates, and Philip Kennedy Johnson is the current writer of the Hulk.
Nice.
But as we talk about series history, like when did you start reading, and like, because I know you're a big fan of the Hulk, like how did you become a big fan of the Hulk?
Well, I mean, being around comic books in general, you're going to know the Hulk. That's one thing I will say, is it's not like I was ever not, there was never an absence of Hulk in my life, you know?
Yeah.
And so it's less, when I started reading it would have been, I think the first ever actual reading I ever did of Hulk would have been Immortal Hulk.
Okay.
But I've also, I don't know, I read a lot of like one-off graphic novels for the Hulk. Like, God, I can't remember like off the top of my head anything I've read other than that.
Well, Immortal Hulk was a really good return.
Yeah.
For the character, and
I forgot. An arrow to the head. Yeah.
yeah,
It just introduced a lot of different
it
concepts too.
And that was Al Ewing that we mentioned earlier. He did.
Yep.
Oh, another name that. Why is he not in my notes? Did I erase him?
Yep.
Okay, a guy named Greg Pak.
Yeah.
Greg Pak is the guy who wrote Planet Hulk.
Oh, yes, that's a big one.
And he also wrote, I want to say, I'm pretty sure that he wrote the sequel as well, which was World War Hulk. I'm almost 99% sure. Yeah, that was also Greg Pak. So Planet Hulk and World War Hulk were very iconic story arcs.
Yeah.
And we will at some point on this show of Gamma Files be talking about those story arcs. Whether or not they're going to be all one episode, or if we split that up, that's
a future you problem.
That's a future me problem. Yeah, that's future Ted. But anyway, any other Hulk comics that you've read that you
I couldn't think of any. I'm trying, and I've just read a lot of like disjointed storylines, it seems.
Yeah.
Or stuff with Hulk in it.
Yeah. That's good. But yeah, so Hulk is a big part of both of our reading histories of comics.
Yeah.
I'm actually currently or just finished last night a reread of a Hulk comic that Spencer and I are going to talk about on the next episode of the Comic Den. We were going to do it tonight, Sunday, June 1st, but he had a sore throat. He's been sick for a while.
Yeah, so, he's been going through it.
But yeah, we are, our next episode is going to be Hulk Future Imperfect.
Nice.
And that has the very first appearance of somebody we're going to talk about here in a few moments. But before we get it into
John Carpenter.
No. Next little 101 that I want to go through is Hulk's supporting cast. First, we start with Rick Jones.
Yeah.
Rick, of course, is the reason why we have a Hulk. You know, if Rick had not been stumbling out on the testing field, he would not have. We would not have had a Hulk.
He would need to be saved, which would have meant no
But-
gamma radiation.
Right. So he went out on this testing ground on a dare. And so he went out there and Gamma Bomb was about to go off and Bruce Banner rushed out, pushes Rick into a trench, saving his life, but then
Bombarding
himself.
both of them, really.
Yeah. That is true. But throughout his life, Rick, or their lives, Rick and Hulk and Banner have always been very close.
Yep.
So big supporting cast member there. Betty Ross, of course, has been a major part of Banner and Hulk's life.
Kind of the lowest to his Superman.
Yeah, just ever since his beginning, she's been a part.
She's his lightning rod, to coin a Flash phrase.
Yeah. Another character that can be considered both ally and enemy. So we're kind of going to talk about them, talk about this person when we get to the Rogues Gallery as well. But I'm referring to General Thaddeus Thunderbolt Ross. Been there ever since the beginning. In fact, he was overseeing the project that Banner was working on.
In some iterations, isn't that how Betty and Bruce meet? Is via the tests?
Pretty much, yeah. So there have been times when Ross has been a friend.
Yeah.
Not all the time.
I mean, they get along.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of Thunderbolt. I mean, in some cases, Ross doesn't know, but in some cases it is like, damn, it really sucks that I have to, like, his job is to stop the Hulk. That is his major, his six-fingered man.
Right.
And so yeah, there really is a point of, they are friends. It's just an unfortunate.
Yeah, it's just depending on the time frame you're looking at, he is a friend and a foe.
Yep.
Okay, next person on my list is Dr. Leonard Samson.
His therapist.
Right. So he appeared first in Incredible Hulk number 141. And that was around July 1971. He was created by Roy Thomas and Herb Trimpe. But his biggest, I don't want to say most important, but I'll say his most notable appearance was in a 1996 self-titled miniseries that was written by, guess who?
Someone. Peter David.
Dan Slott.
Oh shit.
Yeah. So again, he debuted back in 1971, and he's he appears as a supporting character often, as, like you mentioned, his therapist. Interestingly, the origins of this character, he was born in Tulsa, Oklahoma.
It's weird.
Yeah. And at one point, he temporarily cured Banner of the Hulk by siphoning off some of the gamma radiation.
Turned him into a gamma mutate himself.
He did. So he is another huge supporting cast member. Um, the next one on my list of supporting characters is one Jennifer Walters.
His cousin.
That is right. His cousin, who eventually becomes She-Hulk.
Star of a very controversial Marvel miniseries.
Yeah, we won't get into that.
On this episode, at least.
But yeah, so her first appearance was in 1979 with the Savage She-Hulk #1, created by, no big surprise, Stan Lee.
Huh.
So Jennifer Walters, of course, the cousin of Bruce Banner, is she's in an accident. She is she gets shot and she's wounded.
A car accident.
And see, I always thought it was a car accident too, but the bio is saying,
I think it changes depending on who's writing
Yeah,
it. But originally, it was a car accident. I've known since I was a kid it was a car accident.
yeah,
So I think
I've
that's
always
fucking-
thought, yeah, the bio that I read may be completely wrong. Anyway,
Let's do it.
so she gets in an accident, however you want to look at it, and she's losing blood, and there's nobody around whose blood type she matches except her cousin, and he gives her, provides the blood for the transfusion, and it turns her into She-Hulk.
That always struck me as odd. This like very naturally cautious person being like, "Yeah, I'll give her my blood," but you got to make the character somehow.
Yeah, I get it, for sure. But so that was the list of supporting cast. Can you think of anybody that I'm leaving out?
Let me think. We said Rick Jones,
Rick Jones,
Jennifer Walters, Betty
Jennifer
Ross,
Walters, Doc
Thunderbolt Ross.
Simpson.
What about Sasquatch?
Yeah, you could call him a
Old college roommate.
yeah, you could call him a supporting cast.
I'd call him supporting.
A member of Alpha Flight, a Canadian
Ew.
superhero team. Yeah, you could say that he is a supporting cast. I mean, really, you could call the Avengers a supporting cast, but
Oh, okay. I'm
you're
just
reaching
saying
there.
Sasquatch
You're
is
reaching there.
very specifically a Hulk character.
Sure. But you could also call him a Wolverine character.
Yeah, if you're stupid.
Technically. Okay. Let me think. Anybody else that I'm not thinking?
Scar.
Well, okay. Depending on what era you want to talk about, there is, of course, Jarella,
Yeah.
who was the queen of the planet
Sakaar.
which became Planet Hulk, basically. And so she was the consort of the Hulk, and wife.
Yeah.
And then she she was the mother of their child, whose name, god damn it, escapes me right now.
Scar.
Duh. Yeah. Okay.
I just said it.
No, Sakaar was the name of the planet.
I said it before I said Sakaar. This
Okay.
whole thing started because I said Scar.
Okay. Anyway, so speaking on that particular time frame of the Hulk, you could also mention Korg.
Yeah.
So there's our supporting cast. Now let's talk about his rogues gallery. You can't mention the rogues gallery of Hulk without mentioning, at the very
man
least,
thing.
see, I wasn't even going to mention him,
I wasn't either. I'm just making shit up.
but no,
Abomination.
Abomination, definitely. the leader,
Yep.
definitely.
Red Hulk.
Red Hulk, of course, and that's where we get into when General Ross is a foe and not a friend.
Yeah.
Then you have Rhino,
Yep.
Glenn Talbot, who is a military guy. He's the ex-husband of Betty, and just an all-around asshole that like wants nothing but to destroy the Hulk.
Yeah.
And we could also mention Maestro,
Yeah.
who is, I mean, you know, he is a foe of the Hulk.
He is
Let's
an
not,
antagonistic force within
yes,
Hulk lore.
yeah, let's not talk too much of his history, so not to spoil for later days,
Yeah.
episodes. But yes, Maestro is an enemy of the Hulk.
Yeah.
Wink, wink. Absorbing Man, you often see him as an enemy.
Yeah, you're right.
More so an enemy of the X-Men than Hulk, but you could say Juggernaut.
I'd say more X-Men than Hulk. Yeah,
I would
within
too.
the same realm. Yeah.
Yeah. He often is at odds with MODOK.
Again, that's kind of.
You're reaching.
One thing about the Hulk that I will say is a lot of his conflict is man versus self. A lot of it isn't about, and let's be real, there is a lot of I'm the Hulk, I'm gonna go punch this guy in the face real hard, and that's all well and good. But a lot of the conflict that comes with being Dr. Robert Bruce Banner is grappling with the fact that he is the Hulk and that he is this person. Not so much that, oh, there's another big green guy, gotta go whoop his ass.
Yeah, you're right.
So a lot of these villains are just like, yeah, he's fought these guys before, but he's also an Avenger, so he's fought a lot of dudes before.
Yes, yeah. There's a lot of, if you're an enemy of the Avengers, by that token, you're probably an enemy of the Hulk. Yeah. So yeah, there's your rogues gallery of the Hulk. And so with that, do you have any final thoughts of things for novices of the Incredible Hulk that you would think of mentioning?
Like we've said, Hulk isn't your typical superhero. He's not going to wear the tights, and he's not always fighting crime. It's a character that is very much defined by the conflict within himself as opposed to external conflict.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You're going to be seeing him struggling to grapple with the implications of what he is. You're going to see him, you're going to have a lot of self-loathing. You're going to have a lot of man versus self. But in an era like the one we live in, sometimes the Hulk is more interesting. Sometimes I'd rather read a story where the Hulk is feeling like shit than a story where Superman fights some guy and then wins.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of victory in Hulk stories because there's no way to win when this is what you are.
Yeah.
So if you're going into Hulk, which I would highly recommend because he's such a fascinating character, but if you're going to go into the Hulk with the expectation of these bombastic battles and quippy one-liners and bright, colorful bullshittery, you're going to be disappointed because that is not what the Hulk is about. It's about struggle, and it's about self-loathing, and it's about what is within us that makes us, in some ways we all have a Hulk inside of us.
Sure.
In some ways we all have that urge to just get angry and start lashing out. And so if you really get into it, Hulk is about when those urges manifest, how do we stop them? How do we stop ourselves from lashing out and destroying things? How do we stop ourselves from hulking out?
Right.
And I think that that's it's an interesting story. Like I said, I'd rather read one story where the Hulk maybe loses to himself rather than 1,000 stories where Batman pulls a fucking bat gadget out of his ass and wins the fight.
Yeah. So to wrap things up here, I'm going to go through just a few of, like, if you've never read any Hulk comic books, some really good places to start. Just a few, because there's a lot. I mean, I could say just read the entire Peter David run, but
nobody has time for that.
Nobody has time for that. But I definitely would read the Peter David run, especially with the introduction of Professor Hulk, which
yes,
that just in a nutshell, basically Doc Samson kind of melds
the two personalities.
Technically three.
Hulk,
Bruce, and Joe Fixit.
Oh, that's weird. That's very strange.
And he kind of melds them all into Professor Hulk. And that's a Peter David thing, and definitely one that I would recommend trying. Another one would be Hulk Gray, which was written by Jeff Loeb.
Ooh, Jeff Loeb wrote Hulk?
Yeah, and Tim Sal did the artwork.
Nice. Love that.
So good one there.
Halloween.
Yeah, definitely.
No, don't call it that. That's a horrible. No, not the long Hulkween. Never mind.
No. Of course, I would absolutely recommend both Planet Hulk and World War Hulk. Both, again, as we mentioned earlier, by Greg Pak. I would also recommend the Immortal Hulk storyline by Al Ewing.
That's one I can also recommend.
Yeah. And then, let me think. Let me just think of one more just to throw it out there. Maybe Indestructible Hulk. That one was written by Mark Waid. Particularly the first volume. Volume 1 of Indestructible Hulk is called Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Huh.
And it's basically the Hulk becomes an agent of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Hulk or Bruce Banner?
Hulk.
How peculiar.
But it's interesting. Definitely worth at least one read.
Checking out.
But yeah, so those are some good places to start. Keep tuned in to the show because we will recommend more as time goes by. But that is our first episode of the Gamma Files. Not sure when I'm going to do another one, but I got a pretty good idea what the topic will be. I think we're going to dive into issue number 1.
Of the Hulk?
Yes.
Like Amazing Fantasy.
No, Hulk #1.
Oh, okay.
Amazing Fantasy was Spider-Man.
Or no, like the original appearance of the Hulk.
That would be Hulk #1.
Really? I can
Yeah.
never remember which characters started as their own series and which ones.
Yeah, he started in Incredible Hulk #1.
Huh.
But yeah, so we'll talk about that next time, and we'll go from there.
Perhaps I
But
will be there, perhaps I will not.
we'll see. Well, thanks for tuning in, and thanks, Blue, for joining me on this
Yes.
new.
I like the Hulk.
Yes,
That's it. That's all I have to say.
that's all he has to say. Okay, so that was the end of our Hulk 101. Be back next time, and
And tune into the Batcave.
yeah, whenever we do another one of those.
Hopefully soon. We know what we're doing.
Yeah.
We've known what we're doing. Sometimes we just forget to record, I think. And
That's
sometimes I have other stuff going on. I got a pretty busy week. I run a lot of TTRPGs. Like a lot.
Yeah,
Like I'm about to be running like 5. Or I'm gonna be running 4 and participating in 1.
good Lord.
I do a lot of TTRPGs. Oh, check out Twilight. No, not Twilight of Akanta. The other one. Shit,
Cyberpunk.
what's my thing called? Cyberpunk. Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
running that.
but only if you're a patron of Rebel Nerd Radio.
Oh yeah, become a patron. It's $15,000 a month, unless I'm lying.
It's $2 a month.
I was close.
Cool. All right. Again, thanks for watching, and
Yeah.
we'll catch you next time on the Gamma Files.
Bye.